Hippocrates, father of medicine, prescribed honey for ulcers, wounds, sore throats, even baldness. Never antibiotics. Not once. Ancient Egyptians. Over 900 medical remedies documented. More than 500 used honey as the primary ingredient. For millennia, they healed wounds, treated burns, fought infections without a single pharmaceutical drug. And when modern antibiotics finally arrived in the 1940s, bacteria developed resistance. Everything changed. This is the story of honey, and it's stranger than anyone told you. You open a sealed jar. Inside sits honey, golden, citra thick, still liquid after 3,000 years. Archaeologists did exactly this in Egyptian tombs, and here's what they didn't tell you. They tasted it. Sweet, perfectly edible, no mold, no bacteria, no decay. Picture ancient Egypt, 2500 BCE. Workers building pyramids under brutal sun. Accidents happen daily. Gashes, burns, infections that kill within days. But Egyptian physicians opened clay jars filled with liquid gold. They spread it directly onto open wounds. The bleeding stops. The infection never comes. Honey wasn't just medicine. It was currency. Pharaohs collected it as tax payment. Easy to store. Simple to transport. Unlike grain, it never rotted. Unlike meat, it never spoiled. A jar of honey from 5,500 years ago was discovered in Georgia, still perfectly preserved. The Egyptians understood something modern science took millennia to prove. Honey creates a hostile environment where bacteria simply cannot survive. Water activity of 0.56. Most bacteria need at least 0.91 to grow. The math was deadly simple. For microbes, honey was a desert where nothing could live. In 400 BCE, Hippocrates walks through Athens. No antibiotics exist. No antiseptics. No understanding of germ theory. Yet he heals thousands using a golden substance that bees create from flowers. The truth is darker than you imagined. Ancient Greek and Roman physicians mixed honey with everything. Vinegar for pain relief, unfermented grape juice for gout, and nervous disorders. They applied it to carbuncles, running sores, hard ulcers of the lips. Aristotle himself, when discussing different honeys between 384 to 322 BCE, referred to pale honey as being good as a salve for sore eyes and wounds. Here's the shocking part. It actually worked. Modern research confirms that honey offers antibacterial activity, maintains moist wound conditions, and its high viscosity creates a protective barrier, preventing infection. Scientists discovered B-defensin 1, hydrogen peroxide production through glucose oxidase enzymes, and plant-derived phenolics, all working simultaneously to kill pathogens. Roman soldiers carried honey into battle, not just for energy, for survival. A sword slash across the arm could mean death from infection within a week. But honey changed the equation. They spread it thick over wounds, wrapped them in cloth, and marched on. The hydrogen peroxide released slowly over 24 hours, killing bacteria without harming human tissue. In Rome, physicians used honey to help patients fall asleep. In Egypt, physicians applied honey to over 500 different ailments. In Greece, honey was believed to prolong lifespans significantly. 3 civilizations, 1 medicine, thousands of years before anyone understood why it worked. Jump back further, to 2400 BCE. The Nile Delta blooms with flowers. Egyptian beekeepers tend cylindrical clay hives laid horizontally, stacked in rows. Temple walls show the entire process carved in stone. Beekeepers using smoke to calm bees before harvesting honey. Techniques still used today. The Egyptians didn't just harvest honey. They mastered it. They wove hives from reeds and straw, designed to be transported easily. During flood season, they moved hives along the Nile, following the seasonal bloom of flowering plants. Portable beekeeping. Industrial-scale honey production. All before the Bronze Age ended. Wait, it gets weirder. Honey appeared in religious ceremonies as offerings to gods. It preserved mummies in burial rituals. Archaeologists found jars placed in tombs to sustain souls in the afterlife, symbolizing purity, prosperity, immortality. Even fetal mummies were preserved in honey. Though if the embalming process failed, the fetus could disintegrate in the sweet liquid. The real story gets stranger. In ancient Malta, honey served as legal currency. Coins from 1972–81 show bees and honeycomb, commemorating this history. Germanic tribes paid their lords and chieftains in honey and mead. Trade routes stretched from Egypt through the Middle East to Europe, with honey moving as precious cargo alongside spices and gold. One civilization mastered honey for 2,000 years, while most of the ancient world remained ignorant of its power. The gap between knowledge and practice stretched across continents. In 300 CE, Emperor Diocletian issues a price edict across Rome. Best quality honey, 40 denarii per pint. Second quality, 24 denarii. The same price as first and second pressed olive oil. Worth about the same as pork by weight. Here's the part historians argue about. Honey was never worth its weight in gold. Despite legends claiming beekeepers could trade honey pound for pound with precious metals, economic records tell a different story. A 14th century English craftsman could buy a gallon of honey with 1 day's wages. Valuable, yes, but not equivalent to gold. But here's what they didn't tell you. Honey's real value wasn't in weight. It was in durability. Gold doesn't heal wounds. Silver doesn't fight infection. Honey did both. Along the Silk Road, merchants transported honey in caravans from northern Europe through Baghdad to East and Southeast Asia. Pack animals, camels, horses, donkeys, carried sealed containers across thousands of miles. The knowledge traveled with the honey. Beekeeping techniques passed from Egypt to Greece to Rome, then along trade routes to China. Cities like Constantinople, Antioch, and Venice became hubs where honey exchanged hands between continents. Maritime routes connected Alexandria in Egypt with Calicut in India and Guangzhou in China. Ships called junks navigated vast Indian Ocean distances, carrying honey sealed in jars that could survive the journey without spoiling. In Rehov, Israel, archaeologists discovered evidence of a 3,000-year-old beekeeping industry, the oldest intact beehives ever found. Ancient honeycomb remnants, preserved beeswax, an entire infrastructure dedicated to producing the substance that could both purchase goods and save lives. No one saw this coming. Honey wasn't just traded as a commodity. Greek civilization used it as tribute to gods and as currency to settle taxes. Rome embraced honey across military operations, feasts, and economic transactions. The sweet substance became woven into the fabric of ancient economies, serving triple duty as food, medicine, and money. What happened next changed everything. Modern scientists finally ask the question ancient Egyptians somehow already answered: why doesn't honey spoil? The shocking part: honey attacks microbes through at least 5 different mechanisms simultaneously. High sugar concentration, typically around 80%, creates osmotic pressure that literally dehydrates bacteria by drawing water out of their cells. The acidic pH inhibits growth. Glucose oxidase enzymes produce hydrogen peroxide as a slow-release antiseptic. Low water activity starves microbes of moisture. B. Defensin 1 and plant-derived phenolics add additional antimicrobial compounds. This multifaceted attack explains something crucial. Bacteria rarely develop resistance to honey. Unlike antibiotics that target a single pathway, honey assaults pathogens from every angle. Evolution cannot adapt it fast enough. Modern studies prove ancient remedies worked. Manuka honey shows effectiveness against methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. bacteria that resist modern antibiotics. Tests confirm honey disrupts biofilms produced by Pseudomonas aeruginosa and Staphylococcus aureus, addressing chronic infections that pharmaceutical drugs struggle to treat. Here's the shocking truth. Heating honey to 70 degrees for just 30 minutes destroys virtually all glucose oxidase activity, eliminating its ability to produce hydrogen peroxide. Commercial processing reduces antimicrobial potency by up to 90%. Ancient Egyptians using raw honey had more effective medicine than many modern consumers, buying processed versions from supermarkets. In 1922, archaeologists break the seal on Tutankhamun's tomb. Inside, among jewelry and games and clothing, they find jars, sealed, undisturbed for 3,300 years. They open one, golden liquid inside. According to sources from McGill University, the archaeologists did something remarkable. They tasted it. Sweet, still edible. A substance that survived longer than empires. The moment that cemented honey's legendary status wasn't just its survival. It was what survival meant. Ancient Egyptians believed honey represented eternal life. They placed it in tombs to sustain the deceased on their journey to the afterlife. Their faith wasn't misplaced. The honey they sealed proved more permanent than the pharaohs themselves. Georgia holds an even older discovery. Honey estimated at 5,500 years old, found in tombs with remarkably high concentrations of exceptionally well-preserved pollen grains. Analysis revealed significant amounts of pollen from insect-pollinated plants, pushing the boundaries of what scientists thought possible. This is where it gets weird. The same properties that made honey eternal made it medicinal. The sealed jars protected honey from dust, insects, and microbes for millennia. Low moisture content, high acidity, enzymatic properties creating hydrogen peroxide. These factors combined to make honey a natural preservative, impervious to spoilage. Cleopatra famously bathed in milk and honey to maintain her legendary beauty. Romans and Egyptians used honey in therapeutic baths to beautify skin and heal wounds. Ancient knowledge about honey's antibacterial and moisturizing properties still drives modern cosmetic industries. The symbolic moment. When archaeologists tasted 3,300-year-old honey and found it sweet, they proved what ancient civilizations always knew. Some substances transcend time. Some medicines never expire. Some currencies hold value across millennia. Today, honey production is a global industry. But here's what they didn't tell you. Scientists are racing backward, trying to recreate what ancients perfected. Modern researchers validate historical uses with clinical trials. Studies demonstrate honey's effectiveness against antibiotic-resistant pathogens, bacteria that modern medicine struggles to treat. Hospitals increasingly use medical-grade honey for wound dressings, particularly Manuka honey with documented activity against MRSA and Helicobacter pylori. The truth is stranger. Ancient techniques are making a comeback. Scientists study how Egyptians harvested, stored, and applied honey. Museums recreate 4,500-year-old cylindrical hives. Researchers analyze pollen in archaeological honey samples to understand ancient beekeeping locations. Honey shaped world history beyond medicine. Trade routes formed around it. Empires collected it as taxes. Economies valued it alongside precious metals. Warriors carried it into battle. Physicians prescribed it for every ailment imaginable. Modern science confirms what ancient physicians somehow knew without microscopes or laboratories. Honey fights bacteria, calms inflammation, supports gut and immune systems, contains bioactive nutrients like amino acids and enzymes. The connection between 5,500-year-old Georgian honey and today's medical-grade wound dressings runs unbroken through human history. Honey was medicine because bacteria cannot survive in a substance that dehydrates them, releases hydrogen peroxide, maintains killing acidity, and attacks through 5 mechanisms simultaneously. Honey was money because it never spoiled, traveled easily, and held value that transcended borders and centuries. Ancient Egyptians used honey in over 500 medical remedies. Archaeologists found 5,500-year-old honey still edible. Hippocrates prescribed it for ulcers, wounds, and baldness. Roman soldiers carried it to prevent battlefield infections. Modern hospitals use it against antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Every jar of honey connects us to civilizations that understood its power before science explained why. Every application on a wound echoes practices perfected 4,500 years ago. Every spoonful contains the same antibacterial properties that sustained pharaohs, healed warriors, and transcended death itself. The golden liquid that never spoils. The medicine that never expires. The currency that never devalues. Honey wasn't just food. It was humanity's first proof that some treasures are truly eternal.